There was a group of Jews that were sitting in a hotel and having a meal. They began to question the hostess about the kashrut of the food. She told them, "Don't worry, everything in this restaurant was the highest standard of kashrut." While they were waiting for the meals to be served, they began speaking about different topics, and they were very careless about the words that came out of their mouth. The woman could not help but to overhear their conversation, and she gave them rebuke, and she told them, "You're so concerned about what went into your mouth, but you're not concerned at all about what comes out of your mouth." One day, a man ran up to his rabbi and he said so excited, "Rabbi, do you know what I just heard about the Gabbai?" "Wait a minute," the rabbi said. "Before you tell me anything, I would like to pass a little test. It's called the triple filter test. Let's take a moment to filter what you're about to say. It's truth. That's the first one. Have you made absolutely sure that what you're about to tell me is true?" "Oh, no, I'm not sure. I just heard it, actually, right now." "All right," said the rabbi. "So you don't really know if it's true. Now let's see the second filter, and that's the filter of goodness. Is what you're about to tell me right now something good about the Gabbai?" "Oh, no, that's quite the opposite." "Aha," said the rabbi. "You want to tell me something maybe bad, and you don't even know if it's true." The man was a little bit embarrassed. "Let's see, maybe you could pass the third filter. The filter of usefulness. Is what you want to tell me about the Gabbai going to be useful for me?" He shook his head and he left the room very embarrassed. This is the filter that a person has to go through before he wants to say something. Truth, goodness, and usefulness. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says that there's no one that is poorer than a dog and no one richer than a pig. Man does not feel the need to feed a dog, and therefore it needs to find its own food. And because of that, the Almighty made the dog's food 3 days to digest. Yet the pig finds all food satisfactory. There's nothing that is not to his liking. The Vilna Gaon, as it brought in the book Sefer Refuat HaNefesh, asked a question. For what purpose does the Gemara tell us all this? He explains that although the entire Torah was given directly from Hashem, people do not view all sins in the Torah equally. There are certain sins that the Jewish people are extremely careful about. For instance, if a person knows that his friend is eating not kosher, he will separate from him. He wouldn't want to talk to him. However, there is a sin that is more serious than eating non-kosher food. Yet it is less significant in the eyes of the people, and that is Lashon Hara. Explains the Gaon, the Gemara is hinting that the sin connected to the pig is a wealthy sin, since everyone is afraid to transgress it, while the sin of Lashon Hara is an impoverished sin, since no one is afraid of it. The Tolna Rebbe says that there's something positive we can learn from the dogs regarding the topic of speech. He says that in Egypt there were 2 types of animals that acted very good and were rewarded. Both the frogs and the dogs. They both went beyond the call of duty. During the Makav Tzfardim, the frogs jumped into the ovens and were rewarded that they were not burnt. When the Jews left Mitzrayim, the dogs did not bark and were given a very big reward. Lakelev tashlichun oto, to the dog shall you throw it. Non-kosher meat is given to the dogs for all generations. There's a question. Why were the dogs rewarded for all generations, more than the frogs who were ready to sacrifice their lives? The answer is like this. To go against the nature and to keep silent for one night can be more difficult than jumping into the fire. And that is why the dogs were given a greater reward. When a person speaks bad about another individual, the person spoken about receives all of the speaker's merits. Rabbeinu Bachya writes in Chovot HaLevavot that many people, after 120 years, will come up to heaven and they'll be shocked to find out that the tally of mitzvot presented to them will not necessarily match the ones they performed. And this is because when people speak badly about others, they lose their merits to them. Similarly, when people speak in a derogatory manner about others, the sins of those who are spoken about are transferred to the speakers. Wow. There was a wise man about whom others spoke badly about. When he found out that someone had spoken in a bad way about him, he sent him a present, and he wrote him a letter. You gave me a present of your merit, so I'm also sending you a present as well. The Chafetz Chaim was once visited by a student who was a rabbi in a nearby city. He said that he tried to speak to his congregation and teach them, but he finds that although he spoke this past week for over 2 hours, he's worried that there'll be no improvement in their lifestyle whatsoever. But his Rebbe could only smile, and he said to him, the Vilna Hagaon in the Igeret Hagra says in the name of the Midrash, for every moment that an individual closes his mouth, he merits receiving reward that no angel can begin to imagine. You, he told him, you prevented your entire congregation from speaking not for 1 moment, but for 2 whole hours. Is that something small in your eyes? What more could you possibly have accomplished for them? Rabbi Israel Salanta said that it is worthwhile for one to learn self-improvement for his entire life, if only for the fact that he will keep his mouth silent from speaking 1 word of Lashon Hara.